So Nick and I have been sorting out the problems of the world, and we've settled. We've created peace on Earth, and all kinds of other things that we've been able to resolve. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to Nick and through this recorded video, Brooke, about how to buy a cottage that is an asset, not a liability. You know, Robert Kiyosaki, Mr. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about a house being a liability because, you know, if you lose your job, you still have to pay your mortgage, you have property taxes, utilities, et cetera. It sucks money out of your genes. And so in his simple way, which is very effective, I think, it's a liability. Now, when you add a micro suite to your principal residence or a backyard coach house to your principal residence, you're starting to change it from a liability to more of an asset because it produces income even when you're not working in a job. So in my opinion, Nick, you and Brooke should look at a purchase of a cottage. This is just my opinion. And, you know, if you were a super rich dude, it doesn't matter. You know, if you're Elon Musk and you want to buy a cottage just as a toy, by all means, go ahead and do it. But for most people, they want their assets to work for them, right? Rather than you work for the house or you work for the cottage or the house works for you. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that
makes total sense. I totally understand.
So here's a cottage that one of my clients bought on White Lake. It's quite an interesting place, and you'll see more about it. These pictures were obviously taken in the early part of a winter. So White Lake is a nice lake. It's not that far from Ottawa. This is Ottawa here. I kind of live in Nepean, which is here. This is the Canadian Tire Center, which I built years ago. I helped build, I guess. And it's about 48 minutes to Alex's cottage from the Canadian Tire Center. So generally speaking, you want to look for a cottage that's within an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Some people are willing to travel 4 hours to their cottage. That would not be me.
Yeah.
All right. And you live in Belleville. So you know, you should be able to find something really nice, in my opinion, within an hour.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe it's closer. And for Alex, it's about 48 minutes. So he bought this one right in the midst of a huge inflationary bubble in the pandemic, 2021, middle of the year, for $706,000. Probably if he had waited till this year, he could have got it for $100,000 less.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. It's a single family detached on the water. It's the land size is good land size, about an acre. A lot of people are buying small cottage properties of a half an acre. I would advise against that.
Okay.
And the reason for that is cottages, almost all of them are on well and septic. And if your septic system fails on a half-acre site, you got to have a place to put another one there so, you know, you can handle the waste properly. So for me, it would be a minimum of 1 acre if I could find it.
Okay.
And my preference would be 2 acres. All right, that's what I would prefer. So you can see that on here. He's got about 220 feet of frontage on the water, which is fine. It is freehold as opposed to being part of a condominium. I don't really like condos. And for the reasons that we've talked about, you have no control over condo fees or special assessments, whether they're land condos or building condos, industrial condos, you just don't have a lot of control. So it's quite a beautiful spot. And the fact that he may have overpaid for it won't matter because he's a young person like you and Brooke. Alex and his beautiful wife have 4 kids, and they're young people. Alex, I don't think, is yet 35. And, you know, if he holds on to it for, you know, until he's an old man, and you know, it won't matter. So yeah. There you go. But still, I would have preferred it if he had paid $606,000 rather than $706,000. So the main cottage is a 4-season cottage with 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, and it has lots of lake views, open living and dining area, with wood burning stove. People like the wood burning stove. They like the openness in cottages. Maybe it's not the right design for a house, but that is the right design, I think, for a cottage. It's got a kitchen pantry, large storage area, a breakfast nook, all of it good. And then having a large deck is really important because a big part of cottage living is for the 113 days of summer that we have in Ontario, not very much. You want to be outdoors as much as you can. And it has a screened-in porch too, because we're blessed in Ontario with lots of bugs.
Yeah.
All right. Now you get a little bit better view of it here, Nick, and I hope Brooke will have time to watch this as well. Here's the main cottage, but there is a guest bunkie over here with 2 bedrooms, and that's very important in terms of turning this from a liability to an asset. All right. And then there's a newer 30 by 30 garage. I'm not even sure where it is on the property. And it has a finished loft and there are 2 sheds. So you can see that the guest bunkie and the loft in the garage could be turned into, guest quarters, right? The water is beautiful in this part of White Lake. It's not a very deep lake, so it gets to be quite warm. It's close to Ottawa, but it's also close to Calabogie, which in the wintertime is a big ski area. The lake is 16 kilometers long, and look at the depth, only 9 meters.
Yeah, wow.
So it does really heat up, but it's a very, very nice lake. And you can water ski or wakeboard on it till your cows come home. Now, one of the things that Alex and his wife will do is they'll probably add 1 or 2 more bunkies. This is a bunkie from Bunkie Life. I think I've talked to you about Bunkie Life before.
Yep.
And I really like their kits. You can buy these kits, this particular one, for just under $10,000. It comes as a kit, and it doesn't take any great expertise to put them together. It's not like building a house, which may require 25, 26, 27 trades to do it, right? And what I won't be able to show it here because I don't have all the pictures here, but there is a queen-sized bed at grade, and there's a loft up here where there's two more sleeping platforms. So you can sleep, believe it or not, you can sleep 4 people in this bunkie.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really great. And it's got such a small footprint, you do not need a building permit for it in most jurisdictions. So if you wanted to stick a few more bunkies on your cottage property, you could do that. Something I wanted to tell you guys is that even if you are big cottage people, you probably aren't going to be using it 365 days a year.
No.
And the typical family might use it 35% of the year, and the rest of the time, 65% of the time, it sits unused. So one of the things that people like me do, and maybe you and Brooke will do, is the other 65%, put it on Airbnb and rent it out.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right? And turn a liability into an asset. One of my clients in Quebec has a beautiful cottage, and he just he's an American, lives in Miami. So you can imagine how often he gets to Quebec to his cottage. He might be there 2 weeks a year. And so what he did was he lives in Miami and he has a beautiful cottage in Quebec. And so what we did was we did a little bit of a different program. It is on Airbnb, but it's only available for monthly rentals. Okay. And the reason he did that, there's 2 reasons. Okay, the first reason he did that was Airbnb is a lot of work.
Sure. Yeah.
You have guests coming in every 3 or 4 or 5 days. You've got to clean it, you've got to turn it over, and there's all kinds of work involved, and that is a lot of work. So that's one reason. And the other reason is in Quebec, these Airbnbs are licensed by the province, not by the municipality or the township or the county, but by the province itself. And it's quite the process. So if you rent your place out on Airbnb, but you put a minimum stay of, I think, 29 days or more, so basically a month, yep. It's considered a medium-term rental, and it is not subject to the provincial oversight. And
makes sense.
So he doesn't make as much money because it's furnished. It's a medium-term rental as opposed to a daily or weekly. So he doesn't make as much money, but it's a lot less work, and he doesn't need to be licensed.
Exactly.
Right. So you and Brooke, you might be happy to do it on a weekly basis. That's fine. But if it was my property, I would do the monthly thing because I'm lazy.
Yeah,
and
that makes
I don't
less
want
footprint too. Yeah, exactly.
Way less work, and I'm all about making a decent amount of money, I hope, but also not having to work as hard. Because if you're running, you're really running a hotel, and so it means that Saturday night you're going to be getting texts, or Brooke will be getting texts. How do I connect to Netflix? From a guest who's either drunk or stoned or both.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah. And I'm not interested in that. If somebody's going there for a month. And so what happened, it's interesting, what happened with this particular example of a cottage in Quebec is some people say, well, I only need it for 2 weeks. And so what Chris, my client, does is he writes back and says, no problem. You have the right to sublet the other 2 weeks to your best friend, as long as I know.
Mhm.
And by the way, I want a percentage of that.
Makes sense.
So, augmented tenancy, right? So we're using it with Airbnb. So,
Yeah.
and again, he's, he can put a stack of Bibles there and he can swear to the Quebec government, no, I'm not in that, weekly, daily rental thing. It's 29 days but if say Brooke and you, Nick, rented his cottage and you had it for 2 weeks and say, hey, Bruce, I've got this, I paid for a whole month. Do you and Dawn want it for the other 2 weeks? I can't use it.
Yep.
And by chipping in, I would probably say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And he asked, I think, for 20% of that. So if you sublet it with his permission, he gets 20% of that revenue. So if it was, I don't know, $1,000 a week or $2,000 for 2 weeks, he would get, an extra $400 and Nick and Brooke would take the rest. Okay.
All right.
Something else I wanted to point out, these are just 2 bullet points here that I put on the screen for you guys. I've got clients in Curacao, which is a small island in the Caribbean. Here's Aruba, Curacao's kind of here, and then Venezuela's here. These people own 400 properties in the Caribbean, all of them on Airbnb. So
Really?
It's pretty big. What they're finding is the demand for larger numbers of guests is really amazing. A lot of families like to travel with other families. So you and Brooke might travel with 3 of your buddies and 3 of her girlfriends and their kids, and you might be 15 or 20 people.
Yeah.
And try and find an Airbnb that accommodates 15 or 20 people. So over the last, I guess, few years, they've been focused on bigger properties accommodating more people. I also own, as you know, 2 10-acre sites on a Gulf island between Nanaimo and Vancouver. It's Lasqueti Island. And here's just some views of Lasqueti. I'm actually going there after I visit Calgary. I'll be there in another 10 days or so. So it's off the coast of Vancouver. It's a 10-acre piece of heaven. There's actually 2 of them that I own there. This is Lasqueti. It's the size of Manhattan and has only 700 people on it. So it's
Beautiful.
very, very basic. This is Lasqueti, and it looks like there's a lot happening on Lasqueti. Trust me, there's not. It's very, very, very isolated. But it is the warmest of the Gulf Islands. It's one of the warmest places in Canada, which isn't actually saying that much. It's like being the tallest midget or something.
Yeah.
Probably not that hard to do. So this is really cool, though. Each 10-acre site allows the development of 2 homes or 1 home and either 5 or 6 bunkies. I'm not really clear. I could never get that. And no building permits required. The Island Trust doesn't want to have anything to do. If you build a building and it falls down on your head, Nick, or I build a building and it falls on my head, tough luck for me.
Yeah, great.
And so it's a place where you can grow your own food, produce your own free solar energy. You've got lots of forest, wood energy, and you can live independently if you want. So this is where I'll be there in about 10 days. I'm building a modular home there with a bunch of bedrooms. I think it's 4 bedrooms. I should know that, but I think it is 4 bedrooms. And it has a lock-off suite with 2 bedrooms in it. So it'll be a total of 6 there. And I won't go into all the details. And I'm going to put at least 5 of these bunkies that I like. And I do have pictures. Oh, I'm glad. I do have better pictures here, Nick. So I'm going to put 5 bunkies on the site too. So there's the queen size bed. And if you can see up here, is the loft where you can sleep 2 more people.
Yep.
So let's think about this for a moment. Each of my sites on Lasqueti will have 4 bedrooms in the main house to rent out, each of them sleeping 2. That's 8. Each of these bunkies, there are 5 of them, will sleep 4. That's 28 people I can accommodate on this on each 10-acre site that I own there. So I can bring my kids and my grandkids there and have plenty of room left over. Yep. And or you and your buddies can come and just, but I'll probably do exactly what my friend and client Chris does in Quebec. It'll be a 29-day. Why would you drag yourself out to BC onto Lasqueti Island, for a week? I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Monthly, that's brilliant though.
So the reason I show you that is it'll be a retreat for my family and I. And I hope it will be in the family for a few generations. That's my hope. And I picked Lasqueti Island because it has a very moderate climate. It almost never snows. Daytime temperatures in the winter are anywhere from 3 or 4 degrees to 7 or 8, which is for Canadians is pretty good. It's in Canada, so I love Mexico, and I like many parts of the States as well, but I just think that long-term Canada is going to be a pretty special place. It is a special place, but this is a very, very difficult world we live in right now.
Yeah, 100%.
And I picked something between Vancouver Island and the mainland, so it's protected from tidal waves. And I picked a site that's not on the water. It's 300 feet elevation. So even if the oceans do rise, as predicted in the next 100 years, they're not going to rise 300 feet. At least I don't think so. They might raise in 100 years, they might raise 1 or 2 or 3 meters, but they're not going to go up 100 meters unless something totally catastrophic happens. So I think in terms of tsunami, it's not an earthquake zone. It's an island that has very low population. So, very little violence. If your children were there, I think they'd be quite safe to run around, day or night. The biggest, and there are no bears or cougars on the island either, which is at least so far, which is good. So it has a lot to recommend it. And the 2-bedroom lock-off suite that I mentioned as part of the main house, I'm going to have somebody live there year-round.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So this is something I've done for a long time. When I own something called Blue Heron Storage Corporation, and it's a mini storage business. It has workshops, but I also have I allowed an individual, George, and his beautiful wife Brett, were allowed to roll one of their. They have a modular home. I let them roll it onto the site, connect to my well and septic and electricity on the property, and so they pay me $1,600 a month in rent, and I give them $1,100 back to be my site manager. So I actually get, it's a negative cost security, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
I actually make a little bit of money, $500 on it. But George and Brett have a beautiful place to live. And they keep an eye on everything. So it's negative cost security, because with all due respect, the best cameras you could have in the world and the best security system you could have in the world is not as good as having somebody live there. And so I'll have somebody like George. In fact, I'm meeting two couples that are interested in this role, they'll probably pay for their 2-bedroom apartment lock-off suite. They'll probably pay, I'll do the same thing. I'll charge them $1,600 or $2,000 a month, and then give them back $1,500, to be the site superintendent. So I'll have somebody living there year round, and I think that's going to help a lot.
Oh, I think that's really smart. And so they're going to manage the property. You'd manage all the like the Airbnbs, things like that. They would be like,
the
like
one thing you don't let your on-site on-site managers, God forbid somebody were to break their ankle, or they have a million questions, they'll be there to answer those questions and to make sure that people are enjoying themselves, but they're not destroying the place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you have 28 people there, if they're all young people like you and Brooke wouldn't do it. And when I was a young man, I would leave your place at least as well as you would leave it. I don't leave it a mess, and I don't destroy things. I have respect for other people and other people's property, but some people don't. And if you have 28 people, it could get out of hand. Well, that's my site super will make sure that doesn't happen. And if it does, we'll kick them out immediately. So yeah, but one thing you don't let them do is you don't let them handle money.
No. Yeah.
Because then you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
So listen, you don't have to do the Lasqueti thing, you and Brooke, with the kind of thing that I'm doing, but that's the kind of thing that Alex Long is doing with his wife. That's the kind of thing I'm doing with my wife, and there's no reason why you and Brooke can't do the same thing. And these things make real money.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great insight. Now I'm going to take that to her for sure. And you could do that, like Lasqueti is one thing, but you could also do it in other places, right? Like you said, like you showed me.
Yeah. I mean, these
Bunkies.
These bunkies are so small. I mean, there may be some jurisdictions where 100 square foot footprint requires a building permit, but most cities, towns, counties, townships, states do not. I mean,
Yeah.
the cities and towns do not want to be bothered with, approving every small shed that goes up in their city. But if you built a 2,000 square foot bunkie or 1,000 square foot, they definitely would want a building permit for that.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, so was that helpful?
Very helpful. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay.